Hello and welcome to How Much Money Do You Need in Retirement? I'm Claire Sinton, Financial Wellbeing Lead here at Hargreaves Lansdown. Whether retirement is far off or fast approaching, understanding how you'll fund your post-work life is essential. Both the necessities and the indulgences require proper financial preparation. How much money do I need in retirement and what size pot? How much is enough are the most common questions we hear. I'm going to do my best to demystify these areas for you in the time constraints of the next 40 or so minutes. Before we do get started, as always, just a little bit of housekeeping. This video will last for 40 minutes, and I also need to point out that everything discussed will be information, not advice. Please do remember that your individual circumstances will differ, and not everything that I highlight will apply or apply equally. With this being recorded, there will be contact information visible at the end of the session. So let's confirm what we're going to cover. Firstly, I want to take a few minutes to set the scene with the retirement landscape, explore the various retirement options on offer, and make sure we're all comfortable with those options and the key differences in the mechanisms, because that will be important for the case studies we look at later on. Then we'll move on to the big questions we should all think about when it comes to our retirement. These are the questions that we all have. How much might we spend in retirement? And we'll look at how you can begin to explore your income considerations. You're not alone in saving for retirement. The state pension is often the bedrock of people's income. So I'll also confirm when you might receive this and also how much it's likely to be. What is the amount you need saved in your pension by retirement to be financially secure? The secret is that that number is unique to you. The truth is that it varies for each person, and I'm going to guide you through the key considerations so that you can figure out your magic number. And finally, what size emergency fund should you hold in retirement? Cash does play a pivotal role in retirement planning, acting as a buffer for when those unexpected costs arise. Since the introduction of the pension freedoms in 2015, the retirement landscape has become a lot more flexible. There are three options at retirement: annuity, drawdown, and UF Plus. UF Plus stands for Uncrystallised Fund Pension Lump Sum. It is a bit of a mouthful, so it's commonly referred to as lump sum withdrawal. The key point to remember is that you can access up to 25% tax-free cash using any of the methods, and you can also take a mix and match approach with these options to best suit your needs. An annuity is where you effectively hand over your pension pot or a portion of it to an insurance company in return for a secure and guaranteed income for at least your lifetime. Drawdown is a flexible option for those happy to manage their own income. Again, you can take up to 25% tax-free at the outset. The remaining 75% would then move into a drawdown account, and it can remain invested. You can then request a regular monthly income and increase and decrease those payments to suit your needs. As an example, someone might take a little bit earlier on in retirement if they retire before the state pension, and then decrease it once they're in receipt of the state pension because it's supplementing their income. With the average retirement period being 20 to 25 years, the use of investments is still required with this approach due to the hidden risk of inflation eroding the value of your money over time. And that means you're susceptible to stock market movement during your retirement period. And then lastly, UF Plus, that ad hoc lump sum withdrawal. In many ways, it is similar to drawdown. It does use the continued use of investments, but you're directly withdrawing lump sums from the pension. The entire amount paid out goes into your bank, less tax. And that generally means each time 25% is tax-free and 75% will be taxed as your income at that point. Retirement isn't one size fits all. There is no universal retirement plan that works for everyone, which is why being well informed about your options is crucial to making the right decision for you and your loved ones. If there's one key takeaway from today, it's this: that retirement is deeply personal. It's about your unique situation. It hinges on the lifestyle that you want to achieve, and it's best, therefore, to have a plan in place to secure the future that you want. Planning for something that's potentially decades away can feel overwhelming. Acknowledgement that your lifestyle, health, and circumstances will evolve over time, so it's typical to have lots of questions, and therefore it's never too early to start thinking about it. One of my favourite quotes reminds us that old age is like everything else. To make a success of it, you've got to start young. And that can be applied to financial planning as well as our overall health and well-being. Just as we're encouraged to eat 5 different fruits and vegetables every day to look after our bodies, we should also make it a priority to review our pension and financial plan at least once a year, increasing that to twice a year after 50, and again, increasing that frequency the closer we get to our desirable retirement age. So let's get into it. First up, how much might you spend in retirement? At risk of sounding like a broken record this early on into the video, there is no universal answer to this question because it depends on individual spending needs, which makes predicting it hard to pin down. But understanding what current retirees are spending can act as a useful guide. If you have joined a previous webinar or read a previous retirement article on our website, you might be familiar with the Pension and Lifetime Savings Association retirement living standards. Now, they outline 3 levels of retirement lifestyle: the minimum, the moderate, and comfortable. And while they've sparked really important conversations, the latest review revealed a really sharp incline in the moderate lifestyle cost, up 34% for singletons and up 27% for couples in just 12 months. Now, that huge increase in cost reflects the inclusion of more aspirational aspects. So, the PLSA have included things like additional family outings, spending more time out of the home and on holiday, which they believe have gained increasing importance after COVID. However, rather than include those aspirational elements, what we're going to look at is what people aged 65 to 74 are spending each year. And we're going to look at this at household level. These figures are the spending amounts, so it's not income, it's what's required after any tax. Now, we've categorized this into 3 households income groups. You've got the lowest 20% income household bracket, the middle 20% household income group, and then the top 20% household income group. For those in the lowest 20% income household bracket, total annual spending is about £12,690. Break that down into a weekly budget of £218, of which about £40 a week is for food. And then across the year, they have about £600 to spend on hotels, restaurants, and those leisure activities. Households in the middle 20%, their expenditure needs is double that, so around £26,500, supporting a weekly budget of about £550, with £70 of that going towards food. And then they spend typically just over £2,000 on hotels and restaurants each year. Moving up to the top 20% households income bracket over 65, maintaining their lifestyle costs £44,000 a year. So again, a pretty big jump. And that allows them to have a weekly budget of £725, with over £90 of that spent on food. And then across the year, they've got about £3,500 annually to spend on hotels and restaurants. Now, of course, how we each choose to spend our money will differ. Some might choose to spend on eating out, others might prioritise holidays, others could prefer to spend money on sports memberships. Ultimately, the bigger your pension pot, the more choices you'll have, and the greater likelihood of the bigger income that you'll have. At the moment, only 38% of people are confident that they will be able to afford to retire. But here's the good news. We have more control over our financial futures than ever before. And later in this webinar, I will share the ways that you can really supercharge your pension. Now, picture your retirement savings as a slow growing tree. From the age of 22, you should aim to set aside 12% of your earnings each year. Think of it as watering that tree consistently over time. That 12% isn't just from your pocket, it includes what your employer contributes as well. So if you're putting in 7% and your employer adds 5%, you are hitting that 12% target. But let's face it, not everyone will start saving in their 20s. And also, some people might need to pause contributions or lower them temporarily in order to save for a house or because they've had to take time off work. Gaps are likely, but it is best to make up for those contribution gaps if you can. So let's say that you start contributing at age 30 instead. There's a simple rule of thumb that can give you an idea of the contribution level that you need to make in order to catch up. You take your starting age, so we're going to use 30, you halve it, 15, and that's the percentage that you should aim to contribute and save within your pension moving forwards. Again, that includes anything that your employer or a third party pays into your pension. Now, that target might sound daunting, but don't let it discourage you. Do save what you can and take advantage of the tax relief as well as any employer contribution that is available to you. Now we have an understanding of the spending habits of those aged over 65. We're going to move forward and explore how you can start determining the level of income that you might require later in life. The first step is to assess your financial needs. What we spend is different to one another, and also what our ideal retirement looks like is a personal thing. But there is a rough ideology to follow, those key considerations that will help you think about what you might need. Retirement is essentially your longest ever holiday, so what do you want it to look like? Let's start with what we call the retirement questions. Firstly, when do you see yourself retiring? At what age? And then, do you plan to work part-time? And if so, will it be paid or voluntary? Whilst uncomfortable, it's also really important to think about life expectancy. People typically underestimate it. A man turning 65 today is expected to live to 85, and 1 in 4 will reach age 92. Women tend to live even longer, and living longer can mean higher costs, especially if health declines. So it's really important to consider this. Next, think about where you plan to live, whether you may downsize from your current home and use some of the proceeds to boost your retirement income. Consider your lifestyle goals, how you really envision spending your day to day. And that's going to give you a helping hand in then thinking about how you tackle the income questions. What will you need to spend on the essentials in order to keep food on the table and the lights on? Think about the might needs. So, will you need to drive or get transport anywhere regularly? And then there are the nice to haves, the indulgences like eating out, travel, sports memberships. It's important to distinguish between the necessary costs, those that you need to keep yourself alive, and the discretionary spending because you can approach the nice to haves with more flexibility if needed. A key consideration is whether you'll have paid off any mortgage by retirement or whether you might be in rented accommodation. Rent and mortgage is typically the biggest outlay of cash for the majority of us. And if you haven't paid off your mortgage or will be in rented accommodation in retirement, your income needs will need to be significantly higher. Consider if there's any spending required to get ready for retirement. So, for instance, do you need to make any changes to your home in order to age comfortably in it? Or are you planning to relocate in retirement, whether that's within the UK or internationally? Factor in the moving costs pre-retirement. Planning for all of these things now will help shape your retirement dream into a reality. It can also be helpful to consider your income needs across 4 different phases, the 4 buckets of retirement, because the reality is that as we age, our spending habits typically change. The active years come first, and that's a period where spending is typically higher. As people retire, they want to tick off their bucket list items, whether it's scratching that travel itch or taking up hobbies. And then people tend to spend less in the later years as they become less active. M&S data shows that there's a drop in spending of more than 20% between those aged 65 to 74 and then those aged over 75. Expenditure will likely be focused on the essentials in those later years. Some might see a big increase in expenditure if long-term care is needed, but that won't apply for everybody. Then there is the emergency fund bucket, a cash buffer easily accessible to cover any unexpected expenses. For instance, if you need to get a new boiler, or perhaps you might need a stair lift fitting in your home in order to age in it. I'll come on to this in more detail in a few slides' time. The final bucket is about legacy planning, deciding what money, if any, you wish to pass on to loved ones. Pensions offer a tax efficient way to pass on wealth because they sit outside of your estate for inheritance tax purposes. If you pass away before age 75, any remaining money in your pension can be transferred tax free to your beneficiaries up to a limit of £1,073,100. After 75, the money can still be passed to your beneficiaries and it will be taxed at the recipient's income rate at the point they place a withdrawal instruction. The good news is that you are not alone when it comes to saving for your retirement. The government does offer support in the form of your state pension, and the state pension typically acts as the bedrock of people's income in retirement. And then you add private income and savings on top of that foundation. To be clear, your state pension and any private, personal, or workplace pensions, they act differently and they don't integrate. And by that, I mean that they will operate separately and the payments in retirement will be distinct. There's a good chance that you will achieve your desirable retirement income using multiple sources. So, your state pension plus any private pension or workplace pension wealth. You might then also have savings in ISAs or other accounts, perhaps money tied up in property. And it's all of that combined that may allow you to achieve the income you want in retirement. So, what does the state pension offer by way of income? So the state pension at present, the maximum that you might receive is around £11,500 a year. And that works out to be about £221 a week. That is provided you have 35 years of national insurance contributions, and you do need a minimum of 10 years of national insurance contributions to receive any form of state pension. If you find yourself having somewhere between the 10 and 35, it will be proportionately reduced. What year you were born will then determine what age you will begin to receive the state pension. So anyone born before April 1978, state pension age will be somewhere between 65 and 68. And those born after April 1978, the state pension age has risen to 68. There is every chance that the access age could increase above 68 as we are living longer. The UK has an ageing population, and that means that more people are drawing on the state pension and for a longer period of time. So it's becoming more and more costly. One way for the government to reduce costs is to increase state pension age. So if we think back to the expenditure of over 65 households, that middle income spend was about £26,500. So if there are two adults in your house at retirement and both of you are on full state pension, then you're pretty close to that expenditure. So £23,000 roughly is what the state pension would provide to adults who've got full entitlement. And the spending needs of that middle 20% bracket was about £26,500. £11,500 is certainly better than nothing, but if it is unlikely to provide for all of your needs, or you'd perhaps like to retire earlier than your mid to late 60s, then the onus is on you, the individual, to start saving for any shortfall. It's crucial to understand the state pension and what it offers to identify your potential shortfall. So do use the government's calculator to check your state pension forecast. It will tell you your expected pension age, eligibility, and national insurance record. Remember, it's 35 years of contributions that are needed for maximum pension entitlement. And regularly checking your forecast will ensure your record is accurate and identify any gaps that you might be able to fill. Women, especially, may miss out on pension credits due to unclaimed child benefit. So, when claiming child benefit, it comes with an automatic pension credit, national insurance credit that counts towards your state pension. And you get that until your youngest child turns 12. However, because of the child benefit tax charge, many people haven't been claiming that benefit and therefore they're missing out on those state pension credits. If you think this could affect you, please do look into your state pension forecast, see if there are any NI gaps that you can attribute to that missing child benefit, and then see if you're able to backdate your claim in order to boost your state pension entitlement. As you continue to save for retirement, what is the final amount that you should be targeting? How much is enough? A good pot to aim for is one that supports your desired lifestyle. There's no universal magic number since everyone's spending varies. And that's why we spent the last 15 to 20 minutes really reflecting on what you want your retirement to look like and where your money will go. The general advice is to aim for a retirement pot that can provide you with a half to two-thirds of your current annual income. For example, if you're earning £30,000 a year, you'd want your retirement income to be around £15,000 to £20,000 a year. The way that you withdraw funds at retirement can also influence how much you need. Keep in mind the personal factors that we've already covered. We're now going to explore some case studies to see what different pension pot sizes could mean for your income. Meet Ruby. She's a 65-year-old retiree who has built up a pension of £95,000. Ruby has a life expectancy of 87, and she's got some important decisions to make about how she draws retirement income from her pension. Thanks to her 35 years of national insurance contributions, she has qualified for the full state pension, giving her just over £11,500 a year. Then, with her pension pot of £95,000, she has the option to take 25% tax-free cash, which is about £23,750. She has been considering whether she would use some of this money to help her daughter purchase her first home. But before parting with her money, she should really consider whether some of that might be needed to boost her retirement income at a later date or to be saved for any unforeseen costs later down the line. If she chooses to use the remaining 75% of her pot, which is £71,250, to buy a guaranteed income for life via an annuity, then she'd purchase an annual income of £5,108.76. So that's a rate of about 5.4%. This is a single life annuity with no guarantees. The reality is that if you're looking to purchase an annuity, you could get a significant amount more or less, depending on what you choose to include. You would get a lower annual amount if you want the payments each year to provide some protection from inflation throughout the term of your retirement, because it would be more costly to facilitate for the insurance provider. But you could receive a higher annual income if you provide your full medical history and have a condition that suggests a shorter than average life expectancy. The annual income provided by the annuity and state pension would take Ruby's annual income to around £16,610. The first £12,570 is tax-free due to the personal allowance. This is what we can all earn or draw as income prior to paying any tax. And then she would pay 20% basic rate tax on £4,040, which would mean she'd pay about £808 tax. Alternatively, Ruby could opt for drawdown, where if she was looking to match the annuity income at a 5.4% annual withdrawal, would likely deplete her savings by around age 85. It's typically recommended that using drawdown, you target a 4% withdrawal. It's often referred to as the natural yield. And this more conservative 4% annual withdrawal would provide a lower annual income of £2,850, but might ensure that her pension lasts well past her 100th birthday, which she does have a 1 in 6 chance of reaching. Ruby's key decision here is whether she wants to choose the security of an annuity offering that guaranteed income for life, or whether she would like the flexibility of drawdown, which does allow for more control, but that does typically mean more admin throughout retirement, and it does come with the risk of outliving her savings if the markets don't perform as expected. Now we have Tom. At 65, he is ready to embark on his well-earned retirement journey. After working in the UK all his life, he's built up a pension pot of £170,000 and is set to receive the full state pension of £11,500 a year. Tom has a life expectancy of 85, and one of his long-held dreams is to take his family on a Caribbean cruise. He plans to use a portion of his tax-free cash to fund that special trip, and the rest of his tax-free cash he's thinking to keep for those rainy days in retirement. Now, if Tom opts to buy an annuity with the remaining 75% of his pension, which is £127,500, he'll receive an annual income of £9,227. So he's achieved a rate of just above 7%. You'll notice that that's higher than what Ruby achieved, and that's because a bigger pot can mean better buying power and you achieve perhaps a better annuity rate. Now, adding to this the state pension, Tom will have a total income of around £20,500 a year. And again, he would pay basic rate tax on anything above the personal allowance, which is £12,570. So he would pay tax on about £8,159, meaning a tax bill that year of £1,631.88. However, Tom is comfortable managing his own investments, so he's thinking about using drawdown to access his pension. Drawdown's flexibility means that Tom doesn't need to take his entire pot or tax-free cash at once. Instead, he could take £15,000 of his tax-free amount, and that would cover his cruise, and he could leave the rest invested. With the remaining tax-free cash invested, there is potential for future growth, and that could mean that Tom is able to take a larger tax-free lump sum in the future, though this does depend on stock market performance. Tom could end up taking less than the £42,500 if stock markets do downturn and his investments decrease in value. If Tom opts to withdraw 4% annually, then he would receive around £5,100 that year. Assuming his investments grow 4% annually, then he'd only be drawing the natural yield, allowing his pot to grow over time. And by age 100, his pension pot could be worth around £117,000, even though he's been drawing that 4% natural yield. That's appealing for Tom because he would like to leave some inheritance behind for loved ones. However, a 4% return isn't certain. Stock markets could downturn and it could make it difficult to withdraw money from his pension. So it's a good idea for Tom to have some other sources of income that he's able to tap into if he does need to press pause on his drawdown payments due to stock market fluctuations. Market conditions can significantly impact Tom's pension pot. Looking at the chart, the blue line is the line that we've just followed, that 4% natural yield. So 5% investment growth, but assuming 1% is deducted for charges. If you then look at the purple line, that assumes just 1% growth. That would mean that the pot would be worth around £33,000 as Tom turns 87. Whereas consistent 7% annual growth could see Tom's pot grow to over £600,000 by age 100. So this really showcases the impact of stock market movement on pension value if you're using drawdown as your vehicle for retirement income. Investments can fall as well as rise, and that's a risk that you will continue to face if using drawdown as your vehicle to withdraw income. Our final case study is a couple, Gretel and Hansel. Now, they're planning for retirement together. With £250,000 each, they've got a combined nest egg of £500,000. They are both set to receive the full state pension of £11,500 each, and that already gives them an income of £23,000 a year. But their goal is a more comfortable retirement, and they're aiming for around £40,000 guaranteed annual income. In order to achieve this, they each opt to use £100,000 of their pension to buy an annuity to cover the daily expenses. This provides them with financial certainty that they can continue to lead their life in their current standard of living. You'll notice that Hansel's annuity is a little higher, providing about £400 more a year than Gretel's. And that's because Hansel is a smoker. He's disclosed his full medical history and it's led to a higher income rate. Being honest about health conditions can sometimes increase your annuity income, as providers will estimate a shorter life expectancy for smokers, heavy drinkers, and certain illnesses. With the remaining money in their pension, Gretel and Hansel want to keep their options open because they don't require this money yet. So they place the remainder of their pension, which is about £87,500 each, into drawdown, and that money will remain invested awaiting their further instruction. They're hoping it will continue to grow because they have plans to support their grandchildren with university costs at a later date. But again, this does depend on stock market movement. They could get back less than that £87,500 if the investments don't perform as they hope. And that's a risk that they're happy to accept because they know they can meet their daily costs with their annuity income payments as well as their state pension. You are able to mix and match the retirement options to best suit your needs. So when planning for retirement as a couple, Also remember that each of you are entitled to a personal allowance of £12,570 before paying any tax. Drawing most of your income from just one partner's pension pot might push that individual into a higher tax bracket or result in you paying more tax than is necessary. So do utilise both people's personal allowance for maximum efficiency. I included this slide because the visual really clearly illustrates the differences between annuity and drawdown, highlighting the risks associated with drawdown, but also the variable income that it can provide. Using a £250,000 pot as an example, an annuity would provide a guaranteed income of £17,389 per year. You can see that from the horizontal red line. That's a guaranteed amount for every year for at least the rest of that person's lifetime, which simplifies planning and budgeting because it's straightforward. You know the income that you will receive. In contrast, drawdown often means variable income because it depends on investment performance. So using this example, initially the income matched the annuity at £17,389, as shown by the dotted line, but within just 10 years, the income drawn has dropped to £8,626. We can also see here that due to fluctuating markets, the overall pension value has fallen by over 50% in just 3 years. It then makes a modest recovery and then falls away again. This actually reflects a scenario that closely follows the performance of the FTSE 100, the UK's largest 100 companies, from January 2000 to January 2010, spanning across the financial crisis of 2008. It highlights that with drawdown, often you might be taking a variable income. So you can increase or decrease those payments to suit your needs, but also you might have to increase or decrease those payments because of stock market performance. High withdrawals aren't sustainable, and in times of falling markets, continuing to take those high withdrawals from your pot can really significantly reduce your portfolio's ability to recover. Investments can fall as well as rise. We do have a range of interactive tools online for you to use, one of those being the drawdown calculator. It illustrates the concept of drawdown, and you can see how many years your target pension pot could last on different assumptions of growth. So do scan the QR code with your phone to try that out. Next up, one of the 4 retirement buckets, the retirement rainy day pot, that money for emergencies. Over half of retirees could see their finances derailed by an unexpected cost. Budgets are tight that even a car repair, broken boiler could push retirement finances to the brink. So it's really important to prioritise emergency savings alongside building a retirement pot. When people were asked if they could realistically cover emergency expenses in retirement, only 44% felt they could, so just 4 in 10 people. And among current retirees, just 56% believe they can realistically handle unexpected costs. And that really underscores the importance of having a solid financial cushion that you can draw on in those times of need. Cash is crucial because it provides a safety net when unexpected costs arise, and we need more emergency savings than we might think in retirement. It's recommended holding enough cash to cover 1 to 3 years worth of essential spending. It's more than the 3 to 6 months worth recommended while we're working, and that's because in retirement, people tend to be on lower incomes. Those lower incomes are also often fixed, so it's more difficult to rebuild savings if you do dip into them. 1 to 3 years might seem like a really broad spectrum, but the exact amount needed to save does depend on your specific circumstances. So go back to the income considerations that we looked at earlier. How much you need also depends on where your income is coming from in retirement. So for those using drawdown to take an income, it's sensible to really err on the side of more rather than less and maintain a larger cash reserve so that if there are market downturns, times when the stock market is providing less income, you can draw from savings instead of further reducing your pension pot. Achieving the target of 1 to 3 years cash isn't easy, so it is worth planning for. Some people might use a portion of their tax-free cash to bolster their emergency savings as they enter retirement. Do be strategic about where you keep this money. Any money in retirement needs to work as hard as possible. So a significant chunk of cash will need to be in an easy access account so it's readily available if an unforeseen costs occur and you can access it without penalty. But you might also want to consider using fixed rate accounts for portions of money that you won't need for at least 3 months. And those will guarantee a rate of interest that might offer you a better rate than easy access. But bear in mind that once the money is tied up, you can't access it early without penalty. Sometimes it can make sense to distribute your savings across different time frames, balancing immediate access with also higher returns. As we wrap up, do take a moment to consider if your retirement plans are on track. Have you reviewed your pension in the past 12 months? Proactively addressing these questions will help you retire on your own terms. It is never too soon to consider how you'll fund your life once the paycheck stops. What income do you want in retirement? Think through the questions that we did look at earlier. Even if you only set general income goals for now, it will give you a target to work towards. Without a clear goal, reaching your retirement dream becomes much more difficult. How much do you need saved to achieve that annual income? And how much do you have saved now? Are you on track? And will you stay on track if you continue as you are, or do you need to review your plan? Try our pension calculator to forecast the value of your pension at your chosen retirement age and see if it aligns with your income expectations. Scan the QR code on the right hand side and you'll be directed to the calculator. It does make several assumptions, including your retirement age, salary growth linked to inflation, and expected investment returns. While the figures will differ in reality, this tool is really helpful for understanding how changes like postponing your retirement or adjusting your contributions could impact your pension and therefore retirement income. If you run through that projection tool and you're a little off track, there are a few things that you can do to supercharge your pot. Firstly, review your budget. Is there any ceiling to uplift your pension contributions? Thanks to tax relief at your highest marginal rate, it is more affordable than you think. And if your employer offers salary sacrifice, then you can save both the income tax and national insurance on your personal contribution, make it even more tax efficient to save into your pension. If you're an employee with a workplace pension scheme, maximise any employer contributions available to you. This is money that you won't otherwise receive. A really great habit to get into is uplifting your pension contributions with salary reviews. So, as an example, if you get a 3% increase, consider putting a portion of that into your pension because if you haven't had the money yet, you are less likely to miss it. If you can't afford to put more aside, it is still possible to make a difference with investing. So, review your investments, consider whether your money is working as hard as it could be. Investments are used to provide an opportunity to beat inflation and grow our hard earned money. And generally speaking, the higher the concentration of shares within a fund, the higher the risk, but hope for higher return. And when it comes to investing, time is your greatest ally. So if you're comfortable selecting something more adventurous, and by that I mean you have the stomach for any price fluctuations should they happen, the earlier that you do that within the lifespan of your pension, theoretically, the better. And that's because you have a much longer recovery period should you need it. But do remember that investments can fall and rise in value, so it is possible to get back less than you invest. Do track and trace any lost pension pots because they will add a welcome boost to your pension. Review your employment history to ensure that you've accounted for all of your pots along the way. Consolidating them can offer simpler management, but do check for any exit penalties or loss of guaranteed benefits before instructing. And if you've reviewed all of those factors and you're still a little off track, do consider whether you could perhaps delay your retirement. This would give the pot potentially longer in the stock market to potentially grow, though, of course, that's not guaranteed. But also, it gives you a longer opportunity to contribute to your pension. Another consideration would be whether you could semi retire and work part time in order to supplement any income. PensionWise is a free government impartial service. It offers guidance around the withdrawal flexibilities for those approaching retirement. Anyone over 50 with a workplace or personal pension can book a free appointment. This is one-on-one specialist guidance to help you understand your options. The appointments are usually 45 to 60 minutes in length and really worthwhile taking up that opportunity. We're on hand on an ongoing basis to help, so we do have a dedicated team of retirement specialists. They're available on 0117 980 9926 and also contactable at retire@hl.co.uk. Any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. A final slide from our compliance team. Please do take a minute or two to read through the important investment notes. They reiterate that this session was purely information and not to be construed as financial advice. Stock market investments can decrease as well as increase in value, and that tax rules are subject to change. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to this video. I do hope that you found it informative. If you do have any questions, please do get in contact via phone or email. The contact information is now visible. Thank you for listening.